Thomas Tuchel in danger of history repeating itself unless Chelsea can break out of familiar cycle. Matt Law with another madness, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin.
All right, welcome back to the other side of the coin, ladies and gentlemen. Let's react to Matt Law's recent article, which dropped about 3-4 hours ago. It's an opinion piece, and every journalist is got the right to put out whatever opinion they want to put out. But I just want to put a note out there for the Chelsea fans. There'll be a lot of Chelsea fans that'll read this and they'll start believing in this, and it will go into their head like a virus. It will marinate, and then it will take all over their body, and soon they'll start believing that Thomas Tuchel is the problem. And this is where us fans, the fans that actually understand the scenario in a more holistic manner, we need to come together and make sure that this virus doesn't get into the fan base and becomes an issue. Let's react to this particular article. I can't bring it up on the computer because it's under a paywall. And for some reason, there's a hack in iPhone where you can get through a paywall. I don't know how, but it is what it is. The article goes something like this. The headline of the article is Thomas Tuchel in danger of history repeating itself unless Chelsea can break out of familiar cycle. 12 months on from Frank Lampard's sacking, West Londoners have dropped 18 points over the last 12 games in the Premier League. Further goes on to say, problems with big signing, a slump in form and results, and cut adrift of the Premier League leaders sound familiar, Chelsea fans? That's because it is. Thomas Tuchel has blamed bad luck and bad scheduling in terms of COVID cases, injuries, and the fixture list. But there have also been bad decisions from the head coach who must be careful not to allow the start of his second year at the club to spin into what has been an all too familiar cycle of discontent. Look, we have been unlucky. You see other clubs like Arsenal postponing matches because of injuries and player unavailability. It has nothing to do with the whole testing positive situation. They've only got one player that's tested positive, yet they've been able to postpone. Liverpool with 13 false positives have been able to postpone. We have been unlucky. Some of our matches should not have been played. So this isn't Thomas Tuchel making an excuse. This is a fact that we've been unlucky. We've been unlucky with injuries in terms of key players, starting players, big players like Reece James and Ben Chilwell have been injured. Chalobah was a mainstay as well in the back three. Azpilicueta was dethroned this season. So injuries has been an issue. The fact that the board hasn't been able to back Thomas Tuchel in the summer and even now, it's an issue. This isn't some sort of an excuse. This is a proper issue where Thomas Tuchel has come out and said, it's difficult to play week in, week out when your key players are not there. It's tough. When Chelsea was soundly beaten by Leicester City almost a year ago to the day in what proved to be Frank Lampard's final game in charge, the West London side had dropped 19 points over the course of 12 games. Fast forward 12 months and Saturday's defeat to Manchester City meant Tuchel's Chelsea have now dropped 18 points over the past 12 games in the Premier League. I don't know why Matt Law is trying to put a picture and comparing Lampard's time last season with Thomas Tuchel's. Frank Lampard's time had no identity of defense and had no identity of attack. It was a lot deeper than just dropping points. Frank Lampard did not have injury issues or, testing positive issues. Thomas Tuchel is seeing a lot of adversities. This is not normal. And on top of that, we got the Super Cup with Thomas Tuchel. We've now made it to the finals in the Carabao Cup. We're second in the Premier League. Yes, we are far away from Man City, no doubt. It's not good. But to compare Thomas Tuchel with Frank Lampard, I don't know if that's even worthy. Thomas Tuchel actually has a defensive philosophy. Thomas Tuchel is tactically a very good manager. Has he made mistakes in recent times? And maybe he has. He definitely did against Man City. But let's not sit here and sort of think that he's been making mistakes all throughout. No, he hasn't. He's got a lot of things right. It's mad. It's mad. The table looks far more encouraging for Chelsea, of course, but they have now fallen 13 points behind leaders City at the Germans' first anniversary of the club approaches. When Lampard was sacked, Chelsea were 9 points behind City and 11 behind Manchester United, who were top of the table at that time. But crucially, in terms of the former midfielder sacking, his team sat in 9th place. Any Chelsea manager will find himself in trouble if his side are mid-table, no matter how temporarily. But there were other factors at play in Lampard's sacking. The two big signings of the previous summer, Kai Havertz and Timo Werner, were struggling while there had been fallouts with big characters such as Antonio Rudiger and Marcos Alonso. This isn't the same. We have a scenario where our big signing, £98 million signing, actually snuck out and did an interview to downgrade the club and talk against the manager, saying he's changed the module. And since then, he's been absolute ass, where we expected him to go out there and put his hard yards. He's actually sabotaging the team and the manager, to the point where the manager has to come out publicly and say this out now. Frank Lampard didn't have that. Frank Lampard had friends like Matt Law. You know, Matt Law is talking about falling out from big characters. Frank Lampard fell out with big characters like Antonio Rudiger and Marcos Alonso. Marcos Alonso and Antonio Rudiger didn't go behind Frank Lampard's back and do interviews to downplay him, demean him. In fact, the media was against Marcos Alonso. And let's not forget, Matt Law, what you did with Rudiger. I know you get a lot of things right for Chelsea, but what you did with Rudiger, that was wrong. You made stuff up. You fabricated a lot of stuff, because right now, if you hear about Rudiger, many club legends, previous, current, whoever will tell you Rudiger is a brilliant person to have. He's a leader. Youngsters look up to him. And you, at that point, when you're claiming that he fell out with Frank Lampard, you were backing Frank and you were saying Rudiger was a bully. So why aren't you saying the same thing about Lukaku now? Why has the tone changed all of a sudden? Why? A year later, Chelsea seem to be stuck in a familiar pattern. This time, Romelu Lukaku is the big money signing who cannot seem to show his best form in blue shirt, and it's the Belgian with whom the latest head coach does not appear to see eye to eye. Lukaku was dropped for his controversial Sky Italia interview and then reinstated by Tuchel, who had insisted that the situation had been dealt with calmly, despite sources claiming there had been at least one heated conversation between the pair. Having watched Lukaku miss one good chance and pass instead of shoot against City, Tuchel risked upsetting Chelsea's club record signing once again. Tuchel risked this guy, man. You know, if it was Frank Lampard, he'd be all over Romelu Lukaku right now. He had many ball losses without pressure and in very promising circumstances, said Tuchel. Of course, we want to serve him, but he is part of the team and sometimes he needs to do service as well. He had a huge chance, so he's included in this. He's part of the team and performance up front, especially in the first half, we can do much better and we need to do better. The best way to serve Lukaku might have been to have Chelsea's most... This is where it gets really interesting. I want to see what you guys have to say about this. He's now put a different spin on this matter, how to get the best out of Lukaku. The best way to serve Lukaku might have been to have Chelsea's most creative asset playing alongside him against City, and yet Mason Mount, who Tuchel berated during the Carabao Cup semi-final second leg success over Tottenham Hotspurs, was benched. The best way to serve Lukaku might have been to have Chelsea's most creative asset playing alongside him against City, and yet Mason Mount. Chelsea's most creative asset, Mason Mount. I'll leave it for you guys to decide. I love Mason Mount. He's a fantastic talent. But let's not sit here and say he's the most creative asset. Why are we making it seem like he's prime Ronaldinho, Kaká? Mason Mount's a good player. He's banged in some goals. He's got some assists. I have to say he got those assists through corners. Yeah, a couple of open play. But let's not sit here and act as if Thomas Tuchel dropped an absolute passing machine. He dropped Cesc Fabregas. Let's not pretend here, ladies and gentlemen. Mason Mount, as I keep saying, is a fantastic player, but he's not a creative asset that will unlock Lukaku. The issue is far bigger than this. It's mad what Matt Law is saying. And this is, some fans will start believing this. Some fans will start believing this, sadly. His critics will tell you that Mount, and now, listen to this. Now he's trying to spin even more of a story. His critics will tell you that Mount has not been as consistently good this season, and yet he ranks joint first in assists with Reece James, who is injured and is club's third top scorer. Mount has often asked to play out of his most natural position, which is off the left, and has so far suffered from the injury of Ben Chilwell more than any other players, as their pair had struck up a superb understanding for the club and country. Wow. Mount's the only player that is suffering from Ben Chilwell's injury? Mount's the only player. It's mad, man. It's mad. Yeah. The front three Tuchel fielded against City, Lukaku, Christian Pulisic, and Hakim Ziyech had never started a game together before, while the front three that combined so effectively in the last season's Champions League final victory over the Guardiola's team, Mount, Havertz, and Werner, all started on the substitutes bench at the weekend. We've said Thomas Tuchel might have got things wrong against City. Not might, I think he did. But let's not paint the whole season's picture based on that particular match. Given how Lampard revealed Mount used to react to being left out of the team, it would be fair to assume that the England international would have been furious to have lost his place for such a big game, particularly as those who replaced him had done little to deserve to. He's spinning a new story that Mount is furious that he got dropped against City with Thomas Tuchel, because he's assuming, what Lampard said about Mount, that he hates being dropped. Mount's not untouchable at Chelsea Football Club. Let's not beat around the bush and sit here and say that he's been fantastic and he was unjustly that he was dropped. His form hasn't been good. That's why he was dropped. Thomas Tuchel came out recently, post-match, saying none of his forward players have shown the consistency to lock down a position. This is true. Matt Law, this is the truth. It has nothing to do with Mount. It is interesting to note that Tuchel had informed Chelsea that Lampard's team had suffered from bad luck when he was first approached to succeed the club legend, and initially queried if they were sure about wanting to make a change. Tuchel, too, has been the victim of misfortune, particularly with the injuries to Chilwell, Reece James, and Trevor Chalobah, and the season remains very much alive with Carabao Cup final, FA Cup, the Club World Cup, and Champions League last 16 date to look forward to. With their top four status currently not in danger, as it was this time last year, Chelsea will not be worrying too much yet. And as we saw in the Tuchel's first year, the campaign could still end on a huge high. Equally, if the familiar cycle takes hold, he could face a stormy start to the second year in the hot seat. Wow. Matt Law has created a masterpiece. He snuck in a few positive notes here and there, but then threw in those rattling information. First of all, comparing Thomas Tuchel's situation with Frank Lampard, not having anything to say about Romelu Lukaku, instead saying, be careful, you're publicly risking yourself, talking about Mason Mount being furious, assuming that he's furious, and that could be detrimental. Mason Mount is the most creative outlet for Romelu Lukaku. I'm just worried, and this is the message that I want to send out to people that are watching this. Please read it, but don't let it get into your head. Thomas Tuchel's doing a very good job with what adversities that has hit him. The board needs to help him out. It is a fact that Chilwell and Reece James, massive part of Thomas Tuchel's setup, and them not being around and our backups not being adequate, the board should have been there to help him out from January 1st. The whole pandemic situation, our fixtures, we are being forced to play, other teams are getting postponements. That's not fair. Our striker going out and doing interviews, creating a bad environment. Frank Lampard didn't have all that. Look at all the players that Thomas Tuchel has got the best out of. Look at all the players that Frank Lampard struggled with. It's mad to even compare. It's English media at it again. And they will be the main component if ever anything happens with Thomas Tuchel. They'll be the main component to drive Thomas Tuchel out of this football club. Nothing else. They'll create a picture which everyone will start eventually believing. And that's the sad story. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Smash the like button. If you're here for the first time, subscribe. Hit the bell notification to stay in touch with all my content. And I really want to hear from you guys about this particular topic, this recent article from Matlock. Please, I want to hear what you guys have to say about this.